Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Tulo Hoyane. Let me this morning give you another angle to the Meyiwa trial. You see, the day Senzo was killed, he was visiting his girlfriend, Kelly Khumalo, at Kelly Khumalo's home in Fosoras. That is where Senzo was because having been invited there, or the main reason why he was there was he was going to see Kelly Khumalo. That was Kelly Khumalo's home. But looking at this trial, it becomes very interesting when you realize that in spite of Kelly Khumalo being so important from that point of view of being Senzo Meyiwa's girlfriend, the prosecution has indicated that it will not call her as a witness. And you wonder why they will not call her as a witness. Why call all the other people like, Longwe Twala, Tumelo Matlala, and not Kelly Khumalo? Because she's the focal point of this trial. Now there are reasons why you can add one and one and see why they will not call Kelly Khumalo. You see, they're not calling Kelly Khumalo because there's a lot going around this lady as far as the Senzo Meyiwa death is concerned. They don't want her anywhere near the trial in case she faces some ruthless cross-examination from the defense counsels and ends up disclosing things that he had no intention of disclosing and which would embarrass the prosecution. Because you see, Kelly Khumalo was there, and since he was the closest person to Senzo Meyiwa, even as an individual, she ought to be concerned. She ought to have been concerned. She ought to be the first concerned person to say to herself, if she was honest and genuine about these things, to say to herself, here was Senzo. Senzo had visited me at my home, and intruders came into the house, if the intruder story can be believed. Intruders came into the house, and they ended up shooting Senzo. She would have a moral obligation from that point of view. She would have a moral obligation to come forward to say, I was there, this is what I saw. But the prosecution has no intention of calling her as a witness. And they are just about to close their case now. So they will never call her. Over and above that, you see them now surprising and ambushing everybody to say, oh, well, we are not going to call her, but she's a mastermind. You see? But even as a mastermind, they still don't touch her. You see, there are two things here. Either Kelly Khumalo was a victim, or she was a mastermind or a co-perpetrator of the crime that took Senzo's life. It baffles the mind why, if, like they say in the summary of substantial facts, that she was a victim of the people who burst into that house, right? Why they would not call her as a witness, being so close to Senzo. Now, at some stage, you see, this is trial by error, this is trial by ambush, this is trial by monkey tricks, you might well say. But at a later stage, you then say, oh, she's a mastermind. To the surprise of everybody. I think looking at the whole thing holistically, there is no smoke without fire here. There's a real reason that must be established why Kelly Khumalo was never called as a witness. Because you see, now it becomes problematic. Now that she has turned into a mastermind, How then does the mastermind testify against herself? You see, at the initial stage, before we knew her to be a mastermind, there were all these questions about her not testifying. Gininda now says she's the mastermind. She's the person behind the killing of Senzo Meyiwa. She hired people according to the dubious confessions that we have heard him talk about. Now, you see, at that stage when she becomes a mastermind, that now completely rules her out as a witness, because she should now be forced to come before the court to say, to testify against herself and incriminate herself and say to the court, well, I am the mastermind. Why don't you get me into that box? I am the mastermind. If Gininda can be believed, I am the mastermind. Get me in that box and charge me together with these people. But of course, that can never happen. That can never happen. But you see, this trial will never be complete without Kelly Khumalo featuring and giving testimony in that trial. The only option that remains for the defense is to subpoena Kelly Khumalo. Get her before court. Of course, she will not be a willing participant in those proceedings. But come and grill her about all that has, all about the evidence that implicates her throughout the trial, right? I will give you, for instance, you can be confronted along the lines of, you see, Gininda was here. He testified under oath. This is Gininda's evidence, Kelly Khumalo. Gininda has identified you as the mastermind. What do you say about that? You see? Once a question like that is put to her, she will then be under a legal obligation, to sort of wipe herself clean and differ with Gininda, because chances are she will not say, I am the mastermind. There's no way she's going to say that. So that by so denying that she's the mastermind, she will then be contradicting what Gininda has told the court, and thus weakening the case of the prosecution, because now it will be riddled with contradictions. You see, because the lead investigator will have said she is the mastermind. When she is called before court, no way can she say she's the mastermind, because she will land in that box and be joined together with these people. No way is she going to say she's the mastermind. Now, this will poke or puncture a huge hole, a gaping hole in the prosecution case. You'll then have the lead investigator, and you'll then have the lead investigator identifying her as the mastermind. She will then be compelled by circumstances to say to Gininda, to say or to deny the evidence that Gininda has tendered, to actually say, Gininda is lying. I am not the mastermind. Thus, like I said earlier on, weakening the prosecution case, and thus sounding the death knell for the version of 636. You see, if you can get all those involved in this version of 636, the intruder theory, to contradict each other, to contradict each other under oath, that would be a sure strategy that will ensure that 636 remains without credibility, right? It will be worthless. It will be worthless to those people who are trying to, push that narrative. But you have to get the main players of 636 to fight amongst themselves, contradict themselves under oath, and see how the trial proceeds from there. Because if Kelly denies that she's the mastermind under oath, what then do you make of Gininda's evidence that she is the mastermind? Right? On the other hand, should it then, if the court is convinced that, well, she is the mastermind, then the question will be, why is she not being arrested? If Gininda's, version that she's the mastermind carries the day, and she fails to shake off this mastermind tag because she's got a mastermind badge over her chest. Now, if she fails, to dispel all that evidence, or to get rid of it, or to move away from it, then she remains the mastermind. Either way, I've said Kelly Khumalo cannot escape liability and responsibility here. So the only reason why they're not calling her, from my own legal analysis as an advocate, is that they don't want anybody touching her. Because if she steps into that witness box, sparks are going to fly. I really hope that the defense lawyers going forward, 14th April going forward, will get her before court, because everybody wants to see Kelly Khumalo have a day in court. The Meyiwa wants to see her there because, people like Senzo Meyiwa have always said this 636 is a lie. She was shot, Senzo Meyiwa was shot in the Khumalo house by none other than Kelly Khumalo or the people who were in the house. Even if it can be said to be long way, well, but certainly the intruder story itself is a fabricated story. There were no intruders there. So one way or the other, a way must be found. A way just has to be found to get Kelly Khumalo into that courtroom. And a lot of the question marks that are hanging all over the place can then be answered. Having said that, let me thank you for all the views that I'm seeing. Let me also thank you in a very special way for the subscription that I'm seeing. And please continue to support this initiative. It is only with your support and backup that this initiative can grow and grow and grow. Thank you very much and have a pleasant day.